Hi everyone, this is Lana from Lana Under Pressure, and that's my blog where I convert my family's Cuban and Jewish recipes for the Instapot and for now the new Instant Vortex Plus. And today I'm going to show everyone how to make a cake in the air fry mode in the Vortex Plus. And now this isn't just any regular old cake, this is my husband's family's famous Cuban rum cake. And I don't think there's any more fantastic three words than Cuban rum and cake. I mean, together that just means deliciousness, right? So this cake is simple, easy, fast, and really great. So let's get started. Okay, so this is a really easy cake to do. There's only 6 ingredients, and we're going to start with the first most important, is this box cake mix. And now I'm an avid baker, so I usually don't use box mixes, but over the past decades, we found trying different ways that really, it always comes out better using the mix. I'm not sure why, it just does. And not just any mix, but the Betty Crocker Super Moist Yellow Cake Mix, that's really the one you have to get. We've tried also with other brands, it makes a big difference. So, you're just going to take the standard cake mix, you're going to pour that in the bowl, just like that. And unlike other baking, there's no creaming or mixing, you can just mix everything all together. The second important ingredient is you need Jell-O instant vanilla pudding. Not the cook and serve, but just the regular Jell-O vanilla pudding. And it has to be the 3.4 ounce one. So we're going to add that straight to the bowl as well. Just like that. Okay. Alright, and now you don't need a separate bowl for your wet ingredients, you just add everything straight in. And then I'm going to add 4 whole eggs. I'm going to add a ½ cup of vegetable oil right in the bowl. I'm going to add a ½ cup of plain cold water, just like that. And now the most important part, Bacardi Gold Rum. And it has to be the Bacardi dark gold rum, not the light one. I've made it using coconut rum, the Bacardi coconut rum, and that's really good too. And you're going to use a whole ½ cup. So don't skimp on this one. I'm just going to add it straight to the mix, just like that. And don't put this away because we're going to use this bad boy again later. And then after that, we're just going to mix. And we're going to use an electric mixer. If you have a KitchenAid stand mixer, you can use that as well, or if you want to just use a whisk. I find the electric hand mixer is much easier. It's much easier, the cleanup's easier, and that way you don't over whisk it. And you're just going to whisk it until it comes together. And once I've done mixing this with the electric mixer, just like that, and I won't judge if you lick the beaters. Then you're just going to stir it. You're just going to stir it by hand, just to make sure all of the dry is incorporated. Not too much. And that's it. Okay, so now that the batter is prepared, we're going to get our cake pan ready. Now, originally in this recipe, when it's done in the oven the traditional way, it's cooked in a bundt pan that's lined with walnuts. For the air fryer, since a traditional bundt pan would not fit, I converted it so that you can make it in a regular 8-inch high-sided cake pan. If you have a small bundt pan, I do, that fits in the air fryer, you can use that, but I wanted to use something that I think everybody has so you don't have to go out and buy like an extra accessory. So just a regular 8-inch cake pan, and you're going to grease it. I like to grease it with the baking flour pan, but you can grease it the traditional way with just butter and flour. Once you've greased it, you're going to also line it with a round parchment. Fit that straight in. And now another tip that I found doing cakes in the air fryer is I like to make a collar out of foil for the cake pans. And this way it helps the sides not get as hot so that your sides won't brown as much. And you can use this tip also in the regular oven, it really works well. And you're just going to take a long piece of foil, you're going to fold it in half and then in half again. And you're just going to place it right around the edge of your cake pan. You're going to gather the two ends and you're just going to fold and roll them in so that they're tight against the pan. Just like that. And that will help keep the outside from getting too hot while the inside's cooking, and it won't get as brown. So now that we've prepared our pan, we're going to add the batter. Now, like I had said before, this mix originally is enough for a large bundt pan, but since I've had to convert it to an 8-inch pan, we're only going to use half the batter at a time. And this is 4 cups of batter, so we're going to scoop in 2 cups of the batter into the cake pan. So you want 2 heaping cups, just like that. And I like to use a spatula to make sure I get all of it out, because you want... Okay, so that was 1. And we're going to do a second heaping batter. Scoop. So now that we've added the 2 cups of batter into the cake pan, you're going to take your spatula and you're going to smooth the top so that it's nice and even. And this is really important when especially when you're air frying cakes, because they will dome more than when they cook in the oven. So you want to make sure you have it as even as you can. And once you've done that, you're ready to put it in the air fryer. Now, you'll notice that I have a whole bowl of batter left, about 2 cups. So this recipe, when converted, makes actually 2 cakes. So, you know, you can have one for company and one for like a secret cake that you can keep somewhere, you know, snack on later at night. So, now we're going to get to air frying. So now the Vortex has been preheated and it tells you, displays add food. So we're not going to press any buttons, we're just going to open the door. And we're going to add our cake pan in, just like that. Fits perfectly. And we're going to close the door, and it's going to start all by itself. You don't need to press any buttons, and then it'll start counting down. Now, I've tried this recipe numerous times to make sure that I got it right. I did different things, but I found that air frying at 325 for 25 minutes, it's come out perfectly every time that I've done it. So now the Vortex is done cooking and the cake is done. At some point during the cycle, around the middle of the cycle while it's cooking, it's going to display turn food, but for this recipe you're just going to ignore it, leave it, don't press any buttons, and it'll start to count down again. It'll continue cooking. But now that it's done, we're just going to carefully take the cake out, and it is going to be really hot. Okay. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and test it with a skewer. Now, I've done this recipe quite a few times to make sure it's perfect, so I'm pretty sure it's cooked all the way through. Yes. Awesome. So, while this is cooling, we're going to go ahead and boost the flavor. I mean, it is a Cuban rum cake, so you need to add more rum. So we're going to go ahead and make a buttery rum glaze sauce to go right on top of that. Okay, so in the pan for our butter rum sauce, we're going to go ahead and we've melted 2 tablespoons of butter on medium heat. And to that we're going to add a half a cup of sugar and 1/8 cup of water. And we're going to stir that together and bring it to a boil. Now, as you see, it makes a thick sort of glaze, and we need the sugar to go ahead and melt. So we're going to bring it to a boil, and once it starts boiling, then we're going to continue to stir for 3 minutes. So now that it's started to boil, I'm going to go ahead and stir. And you're going to keep stirring for 3 minutes, and don't stop stirring. So we're going to keep stirring, and as it cooks it's going to make sort of like a thick glaze, and that's okay. That's our 3-minute timer. So now we're going to turn off the heat, and we're going to add in a 1/4 cup of rum, and we're going to stir that in. And that's going to bubble, and we're going to keep stirring, and it'll go ahead and burn off the alcohol until what we're left with is a nice a nice glaze to top our cake. So now that our glaze is done and our cake has been cooling for about 10 minutes, before we put the syrup on top of it, we're going to invert the cake into a 9-inch cake pan. Now you can use a 9-inch cake pan or any plate that has a rim to it to catch the glaze, and that's a little bit bigger than the cake, and you'll see why. So you're just going to invert it, just like that. And we're going to take off the parchment. Okay, so now center the cake right in the middle, and now we're going to start to pour the syrup that we just made, the rum butter sauce, and we're going to pour that on top of the cake. Now, before we do that, one trick to get the syrup into the cake is to use a skewer and to just poke a few holes all around the top of the cake, all the way through. Yeah, 10 to 20 holes. It doesn't have to be even or anything, just however you want to do it. And that'll help the rum seep into the cake. So, now we're going to take our sauce and we're going to take a ladle. And the key to this is to pour it over the cake very slowly. That way it has time to seep into the cake before it runs off. So you're going to start in the middle and you're just going to pour it in a circle all over the top of the cake. Just like that. Okay? Get a little bit more. And make sure on your second pass you get the sides. So you want it to kind of drizzle down the sides onto the bottom of the pan. And this way not only is it glazing the sides, but the syrup that falls into the pan will get soaked up by the cake as it cools even more. And it'll keep it moist and delicious. It's great. And don't be skimpy, use all the sauce that you have. That's my dog Daisy May. She likes this cake too, but I don't give it to her. She has her own treats. Actually, if you go onto my IP blog, I have a recipe for a dog treat cake. She thinks I'm making it for her. So, now we used up about all the syrup. I'm just going to pour the rest on top, just like that. And you're going to let it cool for another half an hour so that all of the syrup goes right into the cake. And then you can serve it with whipped cream or some ice cream. Now, that other batter we have to make another cake, what I've done is you can sprinkle nuts on the bottom of the pan first, or you can add to the rum sauce, you can add some pineapple juice instead of water. Do it in different ways, however you want to do that, but that's about it. So Cuban rum cake in the Vortex air fryer half the time. Enjoy!